This week, Alaska was hit by a rare violent wind and broad hurricane-force winds, heavy rain, and dramatic gales breakup resulted in billions of dollars of meltwater rising down the rivers in the state capital, Juneau. The system caused significant damage from the inside, passage on the south-central communities, forcing people to evacuate, halting ferry service, and leaving thousands without power. In Juneau, a sudden release of water from Suicide Basin above the Mid-Col Glacier caused the record rise in the river level significantly exceeded previous night. City officials, with the support of federal agencies, installed the miles of temporary borders, including Hesky-type earthworks and southern walls, with the officials said prevented much more damage in the hundreds of property through road, riverbanks, and the small bridge were ordered to damaged by debris. Residents were temporarily evacuated, with the emergency service monitoring the rapidly changing water levels. Elsewhere, hurricane-force wind uprooted trees, tore off roofs, and damaged power lines in the Anchorage and in neighboring areas. At the same time, tropical turbulence in the West Gulf of Mexico and the area high humidity rose to risk of flooding along the Texas coast and the neighboring region. Local forecasts indicate heavy concentrated rainfall. It could cause the flash flooding in low-lying area and urban area. Even the system never reached a full tropical cyclone stretch, and reminded that flooding not one in the most common cause to death during the tropical threat in U.S. coastal plains in the southern Texas speeded up to preparation and monitoring the timing of the possibility landslide. Inland, severe storm brought destructive storm and live winds, lightened to localized flash flood to parts of the Midwest and Northeast. Rich episode to fallen trees, downed power lines, and temporarily impossible highway. In Connecticut, intensified evening storms dumped several inches of rain in short period of time, caused localized flooding in hundreds of brief power outage, with the utility quickly restored. Emergency officials emphasizing the importance to hitting rapidly issue warning about the flash flood and severe thunderstorm, especially in the summer when storms intensify quickly. Torrential rain and severe thunderstorm battered much of Texas, caused widespread flooding, property damage, and mass evacuation in several counties. The multi-day weather event caused a slow-moving low-pressure system, causing chaos in the such as Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, and parts of East Texas. Horace County received more than 300 mm of rainfall in 36 hours, causing venue, drainage canals, and flood control reservoirs to overflow. The Buffalo Beyond and Brace View overflowed flood residential area to forcing emergency service to conduct more than 500 rescue operations in Greater Houston area. Governor Greg Abbott declared a state of emergency in more than 13 countries, mobilizing Texas National Guard and activating Emergency Operations Center. This is not just heavy rain, Abbott said in a new conference. This is life-threatening flooding that require immediate action. In Austin, flash floods turned roads into rivers, blocking vehicles and forcing dozens of water rescue. Several low-lying crossings were washed away, and the schools in Travis County were closed to safety reasons. Meanwhile, in the Dallas, floods warned heavy rain overflowing through drained, closing major interstate highway, including section in I-35 and I-20. The National Weather Service issued a flood warning that most of central southwestern Texas, north and the saturated soil, and additional rainfall could prolong to the crisis. Experts from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration warned that the climate trends to contributing for more frequent and intense rainfall for the southern United States. In the West Meteorological Eye monitoring an unusual August atmospheric river heading toward the Seattle area that could bring heavy rain in the fire-affected area to mountain terrain. For firefighters, that rain double-edged sword, it can help extinguish active fires, but also increasing the risk dangerous runoffs, mudslides, and rapid rise in water level in small streams. Authorities have urged caution to flood-prone cyclones and reminded residents living near the affected areas to be alert to changing conditions. Climatologists say this season activity in the parts and broad patterns, rising sea surface temperature and unusual atmospheric conditions to increasing to falling storms and may be changing to nature of precipitation, making heavy downpour more common in increasing the danger to the coastal area. The NOAA seasonal forecast continue to predict increasing tropical activity this year, reminding communities to need the rainfall evacuation plans, secure board and secure outdoor items to prepare emergency kits. Investments in resilience infrastructure, from improving urban drainage to stable rivers coastal definitions, are becoming to operational priority as emergency services seek to balance immediate response to long-term adaptation. The storm's impact fell in the form from the Yakima Valley to Columbia Basin, where they went through the orange need to standing water through the rain, late Aprils and hoops. Fish biologists also experiencing constant about the salmon's spawning grounds to rapidly rising streams, erodes fraudulent graving bottoms. This is powerful bursts of energy and difficult to young salmon and windsland. Meteorologists linking to even to atmospheric river to cloud subtropical mist to calibrate the deep low pressure system of the coast, which can square the several days with the rain in the middle of hour. Official urged residents to avoid flooded cars, roads, check on the neighbor and prepare to feel danger on the ground or remain unstoppable. As the sky clear, attention turns to recovery, restoring power, clearing debris and reinforcing river banks before the next Pacific rain arrives. For many Washington residents, the storms was a stark reminder changing coastline on the community ability to come together when it's matter cost. Israeli residents to SeaTac Airport canceled nearly 200 flights. In the east, the Yakima Valley suffered damage to orange, to apple and growers, incurred millions of dollars in losers. In the Spokane country, unstoppable slopes collapsed onto roads and railways, complicating rail transportation, which is vital to Northwest economy. Hospitals in the Spokane and Tacoma reported sharp increase in the number of patients hospitalized due to the storm. Environmental issues are becoming increasingly relevant. Rising water level destroyed it, salmon spawning ground and storm surge damage vulnerable coastal wildlife. The resilient salmon population is better tested more and more each year. Meteorology is linking the storm and intense atmospheric flow often there, referring of the Pineapple Express with the delivery subtropical mist directly to northwest, followed by the warm water on Pacific Ocean. Such a system are becoming more frequent and intense. Governor Jay Inslee declared a state of emergency throughout the state. Mobilizing International Guard are promising assistance and families are farmers. However, recovery will take much longer and simply restoring power and clearing landslides. For the many Washington residents, this storm highlighting the harsh truth. The Pacific Northwest, along with estimated rain and now forcing storms complicated different magnitude. Volunteers walked through the night, placing standards around the area when the water ceased slipping through. This system was built in the centuries to come, warning flood manager Diego Cho, and the river is reminding us for the earth. In the Salas and Pacho valleys, farmers waded through the roads and flooded strawberries and let touch, dealing their direct blow in the state winter produce. Further east, heavy wet snow blanket in this side. Sierra Nevada went turned into rain, wetting down roofs and triggering avalanches to meltwater, thunder it in a catchment basin below. Chris in a tragedy, the Salt Lake through cleared water pipes, knowing the clogged pipe cloud load in the area and imagine a broken dam. Hospital treated hypothermia, burns in carbon monoxide poisoned from the user generators indoors, shelters filled with families with beds and garage bands to belonging community organization 100 up traps changing to hot metals. Official reappeared to all refrain, turn back, don't draw, and the drivers tested their like in a blanket rule. Forecasters said that this situation, warm seas, saturated soil, and suggestive storm turned original rain into crisis. When the skies finally clear, California will face a long day ahead, draining heats, inspiring dams and bridge, testing wells and inspecting system, and detailing crops losers. The alleged task will remain strangling the state with its likely mine water and a composter falls 100 in the state longer with the wall recurring on the maps. Volunteers walked through the night, placing standards around the area when the water ceased slipping through. This system was built in the centuries to come, warning flood manager Diego Cho, and the river is reminding us for the earth. In the Salas and Pacho valleys, farmers waded through the roads and flooded strawberries and let touch, dealing their direct blow in the state winter produce. Further east, heavy wet snow blanket in this side. Sierra Nevada went turned into rain, wetting down roofs and triggering avalanches to meltwater, thunder it in a catchment basin below. Chris in a tragedy, the Salt Lake through cleared water pipes, knowing the clogged pipe cloud load in the area and imagine a broken dam. Hospital treated hypothermia, burns in carbon monoxide poisoned from the user generators indoors, shelters filled with families with beds and garage bands to belonging community organization 100 up traps changing to hot metals. Official reappeared to all refrain, turn back, don't draw, and the drivers tested their like in a blanket rule. Forecasters said that this situation, warm seas, saturated soil, and suggestive storm turned original rain into crisis. When the skies finally clear, California will face a long day ahead, draining heats, inspiring dams and bridge, testing wells and inspecting system, and detailing crops losers. The alleged task will remain strangling the state with its likely mine water and a composter falls 100 in the state longer with the wall recurring on the maps. California is facing for the full force and a historic crisis caused by the flooding. After several days of the continuing rain, rivers have burst their banks, entire areas and underwater, and the state of emergency have been declared from the Los Angeles County and the Sacramento Valley. Official ANU reported dozens of deaths, thousands rescued, and entire town cut off by overflowing reservoirs and a washed-out road. In Monterey County, the Pacho rivers down both forcing the mass evacuation and flooding farmland chest deep in water. Families have been overnighted at the sound of sirens, came crying children and pets through the flooded street. We lost everything in a hour, said Rosa Martinez and displaced farm workers. The water came too fast that heat times that save anything. In the Bay Area, communities face chaos and landslides, buried cars and closed rail lines. The Santa Cruz, famous waterfront, shops are damaged by power waves and inland reservoirs overflowing stranded satellites. Crew rushed and new Highway 17s were bullet the size of small cars and fallen onto the asphalt. A powerful storm system, the remind of Typhoon Holong, caused catastrophic destruction in the western Alaska, leaving communities cut off from the world. Home destroyed and the coastline reported the hurricane force wind and a high wave. The rare event, which occurred over the weekend, was described by officials as the most powerful September storm in Alaska history. The National Weather Service reported with a gust exceeding 145 km per hour, combined with an unprecedented storm surge that flooded coastal town from Nome to Hobart Bay. Entire roads disrupted under seawater, and hundreds of residents were forced to evacuate. Frozen tides flooded their home. "We have never seen anything like this," said Jacob Anna, mayor of Holovkin, where dozens of homes were swept their foundation. "The ocean just carried out. It swallowed everything." Skyline images show that large selection of Alaska west coast have been completely transformed. Beaches have been ordered and entire villages have been temporarily cut off. Thousands of people were left without power, and communication lines were disrupted in remote areas for the complication rescue operation. Governor Mike Dunleavy declared a statewide disaster, mobilizing the Alaska National Guard to deliver emergency aid supply to isolated communities. Rescue operations have been hindered the washed-out roads to continue highways. This storm was rendering the map of Alaska west coast, an emergency official said. Scientists warn that the warming official temperatures are making such extreme storm more likely in the northern latitudes. This washed just coastal from the climatologist Dr. Laura Heaney. There was a collision of Pacific Typhoon Air Court's climate driver superstorm. Residents now facing during the task on rebuilding and temperatures begin to drop toward freezing. Many homes were without heat and local schools and saving temperature shelters. Volunteers and an emergency crew continue clearing debris while the relief organization work to restore clean water and electricity. For many, Alaska's and disaster feel like a touring port. We had the storm before.
Contenedor y el coche. El contenedor y el coche. Madre mía, mira cómo baja. Mira cómo baja, madre mía.
A violent hailstorm swept across large parts of the United States on Tuesday night, bringing chaos, destruction, and widespread power outage. The storm, described by meteorologists as one of the most severe of the year, tore through the Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas, pelted communities with enormous hailstones of ferocious wind. In several areas held the size of golf ball and even baseball, crushed through the roofs, shattered car widespread, and stripped trees before. It was like the sky was falling, said James Harris, a resident of Wichita, Kansas. The noise was different. You can even hear yourself think. According to the National Weather Service, the storm system developing rapidly, a warm issue letting in from the Gulf of Mexico, crashed with a strong cold front moving south from the rock. Within a minute, dark clouds rolled illuminated by the sky, and hail began to pound the ground with a lightning force. Emergency service reported thousands of damaged calls overnight. In Texas, hundreds of the vehicles were destroyed and residential neighborhoods suffered heavy losses. Power lines were turned down by the storm Gulf, leaving more than 120,000 customers without electricity. Some areas could remain without power for days, and the crew struggled to repair on the great amount ongoing severe weather warning. Agriculture, a region where among the hardest hit were corn and the cotton fields across the northern Texas, sustained devastation damage, with the yearly estimate suggesting millions of dollars in club losers.
Oha! Figen!
Minare
Washington is assessing the damage after the parent Pacific storm flooding in low-lying area and dumping heavy snow on the Cascade flooded landslides and hailstorm widespread power outage. Along the Cherry and Snohomish River, gutted exceeded flooded stage overnight, flooded forums and isolated rural communities. The water rose like 10 train, said Alicia had turned in a mountain barrel. They moved lay loudly stuck to chain parking to them. Water reached to barn door. In Seattle, Tacoma, gust of winds broken branches to poles, hitting light rail service and canceling dozens of flights, where cleanup crews speed up across the major roads. Poor cancellation spread throughout the Puget Sound and the coastal town of Joaquin to Long Beach. Struggling to deal, the waves spurted over the temporary embankments. High in the mountains, snowglades and Devon Pass become bottlenecks. Overturns drag, avalanches buries and change require for travel along statements. Consider it a clear shoe may occur without warning. Warning, WS. Spokesman Caleb Morita. Models showed the possibility of the rapid intensification, a major hurricane of area moving west-northwest, increasing uncurrent from the island communities in the East Caribbean, and a rapid likelihood of dangerous wave of the currents along the U.S. East Coast. Even the storm center reminded the offshore emergency management emphasizes on the dangerous hurricane conditions. Large waves, coastal erosions, and life-threatening currents can occur before the far from any landfall. Follow increased advisory to survive probably through the arrival times. Gulf and southwestern flood risk outside in the eye, along with the tropical threat to separate area of concentrated moist to the West Gulf and the advanced coastal area in the causing heavy slow-moving showers. Flooding reminds of the leading cause of normally in tropical system when the weak tropical disbalance can cause flash flooding in urban corridor in low-lying coastal plains. Local medical service in the Personal Gulf and the southeast prioritize flood prevention, clearing drainage system, precautions pump and updating evacuation notice for vulnerable communities. A powerful Atlantic storm that formed near the Gateway Island in a weak tropical storm Erin is rapidly changing for the forecast to become the first hurricane in 2025 season, moving northwest toward the West Atlantic. Models show the system could reach major hurricane range over the weekend, causing concert to Bahamas, Bermuda, and other parts of U.S. East Coast in the coming week. Forecast emphasizing to uncertainty about the exact routes, but most forecasts indicate that the storm will pass in north of Caribbean, creating a wide cone of possible approaches that could cause large waves, dangerous currents to coastal life flooding in southwestern mid-island coast without making landfall. Coastal communities are already being advised to monitor updates to prepare the dangerous waves and beach erosions. Meteorological that rapidly intensification is possible to erode entire warning waters and relatively favorable wind conditions with the key coastal tropical storm turn into much more destructive hurricane in a matter of days. This complicates the task of emergency service will be must hit the worst case scenarios while avoiding false alarms. Official warning that unusually warm in interaction with the storm had intensified its severity. Coastal communities, many of which are already vulnerable due to performance of Milton and shoreline erosion, reported isolated incident of severe flooding and wave damage. Scientists and local leaders pointed to changing ocean temperature and shifting seasonal patterns and factors that could make storm in Alaska more volatile and difficult to predict. Forecasters have collapsed a continent vigilant in effect such and rising river levels and debris to highway was a risk even after the winds had died down. The priority now is recovery, cleaning highways, assessing structure damage and restoring service. Officials saying alert time resilience, strong river definites, updated evacuation plans and investments in a warning system will be critical to communities facing a future with extreme storm may occur more frequently.
It's like a snowstorm. Our vehicles are gonna have major hail damage.
On Wednesday, the Alaska coast abridged the more rain and wind after destruction storm destroyed it to small inglorious villages, killing at least one person and leaving more than 1,400 people homeless. Over the weekend, the reminder of a time when Halong swallowed into the remote communities of Yulin-Kulish Delta in the southwestern parts of the state, bringing strong winds, rain, and a record storm surge that washed away some homes. The Coast Guard rescued dozens of people from their homes after the buildings were washed out at sea. At least one person died and 2 are missing. The communities in Kipnak, with a population of 715, and Kiwigor, the population of 318, were hardest hit with every home damaged by the storm. The situation of Kinpak is catastrophic. Let's not attack crossed. The Mark Robert left the State Emergency Operations Center said during the press conference on Tuesday. We are doing everything we can to continue to support this community, but the situation is bad, as you can imagine. State official acknowledged the people are suffering and has said they are working as quickly as can. We need to provide people with a safe place where they can warm up, eat and get help. We are working quickly to this, but it takes time. A powerful hailstorm swept across parts of the central United States late Tuesday, leaving behind a trail of destruction that circled from Oklahoma to Kansas. The storm filled the fast-moving cold front cooling with the warm, humid air from the Gulf of Mexico. Powdered hailstorm as large as a baseball as wind gusts exceeded 100 km/h. Meteorologists described the event as one of the most intense of the season. This was a textbook supercell outbreak, said Dr. Laura Jenkins from the National Weather Service. The size and density of the hailstorm caused significant structure damage even of reinforced rooftops. Residents in several towns reported shattered car windows, stripped trees, and power outage that left thousands in the darkness overnight. In Norman, Oklahoma, emergency crew responded to dozens of calls as the hail pressed through the skylights and flooded streets. It sounded like someone was throwing rocks by the house of hail an hour, said local resident Jason Miller. Air travel was also disrupted. Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport reported more than 200 flights delayed. Forecast said the system trapped into deep tropical moisture with a powerful rain band swept over the came communities into hour. In Miami-Dade, in the case, a brink band spouted water loaded in a brief tornado warning, tearing in avenues to ripping type from the old roofs. We're asking people to they ever flooded road to turn back into drown station, urged country emergency service representative. Hospitals were treating pediatrics and hypothermia and carbon monoxide poisoning from the generators. Shelters filled with the families and paid to the plastic containers. The volunteers hunted out traps, changing and dried socks. They will tell people to prepare supplies for 3 days, said the chief of the Coastal Fire Department. Help is one of the way by the first 74-hour depended on all of us. When the sky cleared, Florida first Tesla work on restoring power drainage area and mapping hiding damage to sea walls and a septic system. For the many storm was stuck remaining with a global warning, rising sea levels and heavier rains, and the next wave could comes sooner and rising higher than the maps show.